to start this one off by saying, dude, like, we need fans every time. Like, we're going back to the Apex next week. Not looking forward to it. But in Jacksonville, they came out swinging for this one. I liked how the crowd was throughout this whole card. But to get into the main event, just to hop into it like we usually do, Ilia Topuria with just a statement performance against Josh Emmett. Lopsided unanimous decision. 50-44, 50-42. You don't see too many of them. And then 49-45. And just to start off with my like quick thoughts on it is that Ilia Topuria's boxing has proven to be really incredible. And like we already knew coming in that his takedown defense and his grappling was up to snuff and that it was a lot to deal with. But I thought the way he used his jab to cut Josh Emmett off as he would come in with those looping hooks was really good. And I mean, it was showing on Josh Emmett's face how bloody and busted up he was. I think his left eye was like swollen shut. But what did you think of this performance for Ilia Topuria?
Yeah, needed it and he got it. So I mean, it's really that simple for me. I liked this was a good matchup coming in. Five rounder main event of a fight night. Like I thought it all made sense, and obviously a little more one sided than you want to see. But I mean, like credit to Josh Emmett, man. Like he could have easily withered away at like any point in that fight, really. And he just kept swinging. So that's really all you can appreciate at the end of the day. And then obviously Topuria, yeah, man. There are not many featherweights that want to see this guy right now. And then the guys that have seen him, like he just keeps getting better and better. And yeah, man, he's I still think there's still a little bit of dust to settle, like at the top of especially with a guy like Emmett who just had his opportunity and obviously he didn't get it done and now he has this fight. So it's guys like that you think of it. It's like dude, this division in particular, like there really is there's no mercy no matter how good you really are, because if you're not hanging with Volk, then I mean you're hanging with everyone else, and it's like that's it. They're all fighting amongst each other pretty much. So
yeah. I mean, they're all killers, like you're saying. I mean, Josh Emmett is insane. I mean, coming into this fight, I think he was 18-3 or 18-4, and obviously Topuria undefeated and still undefeated after this one. I just think that this fight was such a good win because he really like put it all out there. Like Emmett tried to take him down, didn't work. Even on the feet, it was just like a complete masterclass with, like I said, the jab. The leg kicks were also really effective early because, I mean, Emmett, you could tell that he was having like trouble getting in range. So that's why he was kind of like throwing those looping shots that he was throwing. But those leg kicks and the jabs just cut him off immediately. And like you said, credit to Emmett just for putting it all on the line out there. I mean, he was swinging the whole 5
which is
rounds.
What you typically get from a Josh Emmett fight anyways. But
very true.
If you want to even date back to the Yair Rodriguez interim title fight, like that one, I think that was fairly different from what we saw here in this fight this weekend. So
I liked how, by the way, he took accountability for that fight. I don't know if you've seen like a lot of the promo coming up for this one, but he had talked a lot about that fight and didn't make any excuses. Just kind of said, I went in there, biggest fight of my life, and it just wasn't my night. And I like to see that. Like a lot of times you hear people mentioning injuries, this and that.
Yeah.
But to see him take accountability, I respect that.
And obviously with a sport like this, egos are gonna do what egos do. Obviously if a guy has a big one, but anybody's really I guess entitled to like their own ego in this sport. So
I think you gotta have an ego just to be like
but like at the end of the day, the wins and losses, they count the same. So you gotta just wear them. You gotta wear them one way or another, and Josh Emmett does that really well. So it's good to see him just get the opportunity. At least you want to see those guys on these big stages and and moments, and obviously when you're already whenever Topuria across from you is already like 2 steps ahead of you, the second the fight starts, like there's really only so much you can do other than just leave it all out there. Obviously, with a guy like that, you're not trying to go down to the ground with. So, you got to keep him honest on the feet, and he just. It seemed like the other way around. It seemed like Topuria was keeping Josh Emmett honest, and yeah, that was just yeah, man. It's gonna go a long way for Topuria.
Well,
I feel
Topuria, he had a couple call-outs after this fight, particularly Max Holloway, but then also saying that he is open to waiting around for the fight between Volk and Yair Rodriguez.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So is that that's your opinion? You think he should wait for that?
Not that I think he should wait, but
He's
that's
earned
why.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wouldn't I wouldn't have really any real qualms with it if he did, but.
I mean, like you said, Emmett just fought for the interim title, so that's a big win. I mean,
And yeah, and Max Holloway's case, it's how much does he even really need a fight with Topuria?
and is he even sticking around at 145? Like, we don't even know, because there's a lot of fights for him at lightweight.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah, dude.
I kind of agree with what you're saying. I think that this win has given him the merit to get a title shot versus the winner of Volk versus Yair, but I mean, time will tell with that one. Same thing with Holloway. I'm intrigued to see what happens with him, because for a guy who's lost to the current champion 3 times, he has quite a few options on the table. Max talking.
Oh.
So it's interesting to me. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Topuria could definitely be a good next option for a title fight, whether it be against Yair or Volk. But I do want to say this. If it's against Volk, that's going to be a fun fight. I think that's like all action the whole time. I don't know who wins it. I'd have to think more about it, but it'd be a good one. So I do hope that happens at some point. But before that, I should say, in the co-main event, we had another crazy fight between Macy Barber and Amanda Ribas. And honestly, this card had a lot of good fights on it, but this one, I think, at least in my opinion, was the best fight of the night because in the first round, Macy was just putting it on Amanda. You could argue that was a 10-8. And then round 2, Amanda comes back out with a vengeance. But then the whole time in this fight, it just seemed like it was a finish waiting to happen just because, from the get-go, Amanda was keeping her head in the pocket.
Yeah.
And once that head kick landed, it was pretty much a wrap.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Macy Barber hits hard, dude. So that was
Yeah.
That was interesting on Amanda Ribas's part.
Well, I don't even think that's much of game plan. I think because she's had that happen before. Remember the Marina Rodriguez fight when she got knocked out pretty much on the feet, just standing, and then Herb had that weird stoppage and she got stopped again pretty much. That was a crazy one in itself. But back to this fight. Speaking of referee stoppages, by the way, I do want to say this before I forget. I was laughing when I was watching this yesterday because when Macy hit Amanda with the head kick and she was hitting her on the ground, and it was kind of there was a bit of ground and pound, and you could argue that the fight could have been stopped a little bit earlier, and it never fails. Anytime there's a stoppage that you could argue could have been earlier, Dominic Cruz says about Keith Peterson, he's good on the referee to let him keep on fighting. Obviously in reference to just he's definitely still bitter about the fact that Keith Peterson stopped his fight with Henry Cejudo in that same arena, by the way. So the memory was definitely fresh because I've noticed that the past 5 or 6 cards that Cruz has commentated, every time that Keith Peterson lets a fighter go a little bit, he's good on the ref. Good on the ref for letting him keep going. I just wanted to say that. I thought it was funny, honestly. But back to the actual fight here. The other thing that I honestly didn't really factor as much in my head before this fight, and I think should have probably been more apparent to me, was the fact that Ribas has fought at 115, and Macy Barber's a lot bigger than her. And so the areas where I figured that Ribas was going to do well, in the grappling and in the clinch, I didn't factor in the fact that Macy's probably going to be stronger.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be the problem when Amanda was taking her down and she was just getting right back up. Right when Amanda got her on the ground and then Macy just popped right back to her feet on the fence, that's when you kind of knew that it was going to be a tough one for Amanda Ribas. But, yeah, man. Just this, honestly, to me, this was the most impressive performance of her career. And, coming into this one, I had a bit of an odd opinion on her because I do like her, but her past couple fights have been close decisions, and you could argue either way with those ones. And I thought this one, much similar to the main event, maybe not the same magnitude, but it was really a statement win for Macy. So she said that she wanted Alexa Grasso next title shot or not. Like, so either way, if she loses to Valentina or if she beats Valentina, she wants Grasso. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you need her to beat Valentina Shevchenko. Wait, so you just said win
she wants
or
it either way? Like, because she lost to her, I think, a couple years ago, and I think it was a close fight, and she wants that one back. So it's sort of about the championship, but it's not. Like, she just wants that fight. So gotta respect that a little bit. Man. It's a tough fight.
As the great Chel P says, if two guys want to fight each other, then let them fight.
If only it was that simple. I agree with Chel on that one. But, hey, man, good win by Macy nonetheless. I mean, she's been doing well since she changed camp. She went to Team Alpha Male a couple of years ago, and she's doing pretty good there. So, another guy who's doing pretty good for himself, though, after this finish, and there isn't really much that I want to say about this fight, but besides kind of just breaking down the final sequence, which I love, but David Onama got a win over Gabriel Santos, and this finish, dude, like, as clean of a finish that I've ever seen. Right uppercut, left hook, overhand right, and, like, he hit him with all three clean, so he's already falling, and then on the ground hit him with one last hammer fist just to finish him up. And, dude, like, they showed this one slow-mo, in real time. It's just phenomenal no matter how you look at it.
Isn't that the crazy thing about this sport? How, a guy could put on such a beautiful combination, as clean as a whistle, for the finish, the win, like the ultimate highlight, right? And then a guy like Josh Emmett, he's just trying to replicate the same thing, essentially. He's throwing everything he's got at Ilia Topuria, and it's like, nothing, man. Like, hardly anything was able to touch Topuria for him. And it's like, yeah, man, it's just a testament. Like, there's levels to this game, so.
And finishes are so hard to get in MMA. People need to realize that. So the fact that someone could get such a clean finish is just unreal. And also, like, we're gonna talk about this in another video. I think that video will already be out by the time that, like, this one comes out, even though we're recording the UFC one first. But we have another video on the PFL that's gonna be out already. So we're going to talk a little more about this. But Sabadou C had a crazy spinning heel kick knockout. And, like, just the way that these guys get these finishes in MMA is just insane. Like, it's so difficult when you're fighting another person, all the adrenaline. And then, you're fighting someone who's a trained killer themselves, and they're trying to take what you got. So good on David Onama for getting that win. And then in the first fight of the main card, we had Brendan Allen versus Bruno Silva. And, dude, like, Brendan Allen's another guy. Like, this main card was filled with statement wins. It sucks that the heavyweight fight was a no contest. That's kind of why we weren't really talking about it. But Brendan Allen, man, 4 rear naked chokes in his last 5 fights. And he wants Cannonier or DDP next if he loses to Whitaker. And I'm having a hard time disputing that, man. I'm pretty sure you've talked about Brendan Allen on here a few times.
As a prospect, yeah.
Hey, man, it's starting to become reality for him. I mean, he's ranked already. And now that he's getting all these finishes consecutively, I mean, this is his 3rd straight rear naked choke. So I think that he deserves a big step up in his next one. I mean, he had that versus Strickland. He's had it a couple times, but I think that this next one could really be where it finally comes through for him. I think that he could start making a run for the title. He looks like he's righted a lot of the wrongs in his game, and I was just super impressed by this win against a guy like Bruno Silva, who's not an easy opponent by any stretch, even though he doesn't have a ranking by his name. But also another thing, I'm curious to see what you thought of this. He mentioned this in the post-fight interview, but he wants in his next fight to wear purple shorts because he said he's worn every other color in the octagon. He wants to be the first UFC fighter to wear every single color on his shorts. So get him Cannonier or DDP next. And give him those purple shorts. We want to see Brendan Allen get the whole color wheel on there, So, speaking of middleweight, though, we do have a middleweight main event next week for the UFC. Strickland versus Magomedov. That should be fun. Sean Strickland trying to stop the hype train. Sean's always entertaining. I'm sure we'll have some quotes to break down on next week's show. But we hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll see y'all.